Hey everyone, it's Orange. Welcome to my April 2017 Rune video. I'm really excited to show you guys this video because I made a ton of changes on free rune removal and I have a few new monsters built that I didn't have built before. Rigel, Orion. I also built Adrian and Chihuahua. I have a Necro team, guys. It's the one I used before. I did some testing with new Necro teams, but that didn't quite work out. And then if I continue scrolling down here, let me see if I can notice any new ones. I actually put runes on Ganymede, but I haven't used him yet. And I also runed up Gemini, who I'm using on my midweek arena defense. Huadam is a new one that I recently 6-starred. I think I had him last month, but I didn't 6-star him quite yet, and he is runed pretty well. I'm using him on my new Guild Wars defense. I have two brand new Guild War defenses that I want to show you guys, because recently I joined a new guild, Sof KingEpic. Hold on, let me see, are there any more? I don't think so. I recently got Basalt from Arena for the Guardian 1 reward, and we'll talk a little bit about Arena 2. And then I have Delphoy here because I might rune her up eventually, and there also are some other projects in storage that I'm kind of looking at working on, you know, Tessarian, Konamiya for Guild Wars, even Chloe and Rena for Guild Wars. Actually, I have another Rena over here though, and my homunculus has been put in storage for now because I don't really have any plans for him. Also, I think I might use Ganymede and Huadam this month. That's not Huadam. Huadam is, I can't click him. But I'm probably going to use Huadam and Ganymede for TOA Hard this month, a brand new auto team, and I'll have to see if it's faster, if it's more successful, less successful. I'll have to see how that goes. So yeah, a ton of changes. Guys, let's talk about the rune order that I rune my monsters in. So first, I runed up my AO because I still have a really heavy focus on Arena right now, and mainly that whole thing developed because I wanted to get Guardian 1 just for the achievement of it, and I got it once, and I struggled quite a bit since I got it. So it took me 7 more weeks to get it a second time, and then I think I've gotten it every single week since then. So in total, I think I've had 3 or 4 Guardian 1 finishes and 1 very lucky Guardian 2 finish, as you guys can see here. I have most of those commentaries on my channel, but at this point, what I'm doing is the exact same as what I did in my Guardian 2 video and my other Guardian 1 commentary. So I'm going to actually do a commentary over this past week because it was Basalt, so that's kind of exciting, you know, to do a commentary over the week that I finally obtained Basalt. I've been wanting that monster for a while, and I wasn't quite sure if I'd get him from a scroll or arena. I really didn't think that I'd get him as an arena reward, but I did, so that's really exciting. I'm not sure if I'm going to build him though. I did see Vayne Solador using Talc in Guild Wars, but I don't know if Basalt actually works that well in Guild Wars, but we'll have to see. For TOA Hard, I'm not quite sure if I need him, but maybe I could use him and maybe take out Chisoon or something like that. I don't know. So yeah, that's that. Back to the AO discussion. So I kind of forgot exactly what I was talking about, but I runed my AO up first, meaning my double Lucian team. Right now I still only have 2 AOs, this one you see right here with my double Lucians, and then this one with Shimate right here. And I put really good runes on them because I'm using them throughout the week to clear my wings and also to get Guardian 1. So Guardian 1 has actually been paying off more than I thought it would. I was saying how I wanted to get it just for the achievement of getting it, and then I kind of thought to myself, after I get it a few times, I should probably step back and see if it's worth it crystal-wise, because I have had to do some refills to get it. I'm not able to get it with no refills just yet. In the future, that might be a thing, though. I'm not quite sure. But the thing is, I believe last week, I didn't quite count how many refills I did, but I think it was 2, because Rush Hour was just yesterday, or the day before. Yeah, the day before. So, if we do some math here, I'll show you guys, I still believe I would be finishing Conqueror 2 if I did no refills. I really don't think I can get Conqueror 3 with no refills. That might be possible, But if we compare Conqueror 2 to Guardian 1, you're getting 100 extra crystals, which means that you can do 3 refills and it'll be worth it at that point, but any more than 3, you're spending more crystals than you earn back, unless the monster's good. Like, Basalt might be worth it if you do more than 3 refills because he's a good monster, but just purely crystal-wise, because 3 refills is 90, wait, no, they're 30 crystals each, yeah, that's 90. So you net yourself 10 crystals from getting Guardian, or 10 more, so yeah, worth it. You guys can do the math on the other ones if you would like. So that's really awesome, just that Guardian 1 has been working out better than I thought it would, and I'm able to get it with less refills than I thought. So, also on my AOs, I'm talking so much, I'm sorry guys, but with my AOs, Megan and Shimate don't need extremely good runes to work well, but Lushens and Bernard do. So I rune up my Megan and Shimate a bit later on in the rune ordering, just because they don't need my best stuff. And then, so I give my best stuff to Bernard and my Lushens. Then after that, I gave my best stuff to my Guild Wars monsters this month. Ritesh, oh my gosh guys, Ritesh and Veligul got a lot better. And then Theomars I worked on a little bit too, because I use him heavily in Guild Wars. And Chasoon, and Orion as well. So basically my whole defense here, I gave my second best runes right after my Bernard and 2 Lushens, so pretty much they kind of got my best runes. So yeah, that's that, and then after that I worked on all of my PvE stuff, so I don't have a huge PvE focus right now, but I will eventually. I kind of had to de-rune some of my R5 monsters. Shaolin is RIP right now because she had to give some runes to other stuff, but I will look at putting runes back on that stuff. I will continue to kind of see how the situation goes. If I'm able to give runes to my Guild Wars stuff, I will keep doing that. But if my PvE stuff starts failing a lot, then I will have to look at that and look at getting that better. Also, talking about PvE stuff, I'm still not spending that much money on the game right now, only $10 a month, unless Come To Us releases a really good package, but in the future, if I start spending more, it might be worth it for me to look at putting my good runes on my PvE monsters, just so I can get rid of my crystals every month and do refills and farm runes, because right now TOA and TOA hard are resetting in 3 days, and for some reason I have 2,000 crystals, which is a bit worrisome because I obviously want those to be gone before TOA and TOA hard reset. I just don't like my crystals piling up, because that's sort of a sign that I haven't been doing a good job of farming and I've been lazy or something like that. So I'm going to have to keep an eye on that whole PvE situation, but for now I have a really heavy Guild Wars focus, so that was that. Let's go ahead and jump into the runes, shall we? First monster up, Soha actually got runed again, and the reason for that is because I'm using her for the Fire Rift Beast, because we have a new item in the game called Reappraisal Stones, and having AoE is really good on that Fire Beast because it spawns some crystals that you have to kill or else they fly at you and you die. So for Soha, I gave her a standard attack crit damage attack build, and I just put her on Vampire pretty much for no reason. I could have done broken sets on her, but I just kind of decided to do Vampire. She came very late in the rune order, so yeah, that's Soha. Next is Megan. I don't know how she compares to the Megan I had last month. I should go back and check though, but the way I runed her was the exact same. The only thing that was different was her ordering, because I did rune up Orion, so he took most of her runes because I runed him up first, because like I said, Megan doesn't need to be runed well to work just fine on AO. So Orion came first because I'm using him more heavily, and he kind of needs to be a bit better to work than she does. So I'll need to compare her to last month, but I have her on a will set for Leos, and also I took her off Swift, but her speed is very similar to what it was last month, even though she's lacking that Swift set. Also 85% accuracy for PvP, because that's what people believe the accuracy cap is for PvP, because in Arena I fight a lot of Renas and monsters with high resist, well mainly just Rena, that I really need to Toad Poison and remove that shield off them. them, and also Rakan's that helps with, so I like to have her accuracy capped. Next is Sig. I runed him up just like Soha as well for that Fire Beast because AoE is really good, so I just gave him some random broken sets. I didn't look at getting too much speed on him, I just looked at getting those attack stats to make sure his damage was okay. So that is Sig. And I'm still using him for Lyrith, but I'm probably going to put my Theos runes onto Sig so I have that Violent set, because my Sig doesn't have skill ups, so it's really helpful to get that Violent to reduce your cooldowns. Well, Violent doesn't reduce your cooldowns, but every time you Violent proc, you take a turn, which in turn reduces your cooldowns. And then if you have skill ups on Sig, Violent would still be really good. And also my Theomars is a bit tanky. Sig actually is pretty tanky with that much HP and a little bit of defense, which is kind of surprising, but I'll probably give my Theos runes to him just for the Violent set. So yeah, that's Sig. Here is my Theomars. I was saying earlier, I runed him up right after I runed up my Bernard and my 2 Lushens, so he got some of my best stuff. Unfortunately, his speed dropped a lot, but I think that's okay. I'm a bit worried. I'm looking at both of my Guild Wars defenses, and I know there's quite a bit I can fix with both of them. One worrisome factor is that Theo's speed is quite far away from Chasun's, so we can see Theo is 100 plus 89, and Chasun is 101 plus 108, which means there's a gap in between, and a lot of monsters are runed around 200 speed, which means that they might be able to kind of like snipe Theo before he moves or whatever. Like the situation that I'm predicting is going to happen is my Chasun will buff up and then the enemy team will move before my Theo does, and he doesn't have a will set, so he'll probably get popped, and then Theo's gonna move and it's kind of bad from then on. And there are some other small factors with my Guild Wars defense, like my Orion's not looking too good. I tried to make him really good, but I don't know what happened to him, why he ended up looking that way, because I've been looking at some other people's Orions, and their Orions are better than mine, so yeah, so that's Theo though. He turned out really well, I think, aside from that gap there. And also, I pretty much made him do as much damage as possible. Some people out there have some math on the speed for Theo, and apparently, I think it drops off at plus 90 speed or plus 80 speed. Like, that's the maximum you need for Theo to do as much damage as he can with his first skill. I'm not quite sure about the math though. I was just looking at builds on the Summoner's War Optimizer website, and that's how I did my calculations. Well, I didn't do them, the website did them. So I think I picked the build with the most damage that also had decent speed. So this is how he ended up. I also dropped his crit rate down to 61%. It is 62, but I just went with 61% because that's all he needs if you're using him as a leader skill, because Theomars has elemental advantage with his passive. Let's see. So basically Theomars has a hidden 15% bonus crit rate because he always has elemental advantage, and he also gets 24% crit rate. So 24 plus 15, if you add that to 61, it's 100% crit rate. So oftentimes I'm using him as a leader, which I haven't really before. So that's Theo, you know, just violent. I would like to have him on will, but I don't have the runes right now. That's why I'm farming Necro as much as I can. Next is Galleon. I runed him up the same as I did last month, but again, so many of my runes kind of got switched around. Some of his probably went to Ratesh. They went somewhere because his runes are different, but I runed him up in the same method I did last month, which is pretty much as tanky as I can get him. I have him speed tuned to move before Lagmaron because I still use Theomar's Lagmaron Bernard in Guild Wars, and I want him moving before my attackers move. He also moves before my attackers in Dragon's B10, where I use Verd lead, and Verd has an even faster lead than Galleon does. So I just have him faster than all my attackers, and I gave him 85% accuracy for PvP as well, and then after that, I tried to make him as tanky as I could get him, because that's how I like to have him built for Guild Wars. He also I haven't been using him too much in Guild Wars, but in the future, I have heard some of my guild members saying that they rune him with, they have Will Shield Galleons, so I might do that in the future. Here is Rigel, a new monster. He was on some necro teams that I was testing. Unfortunately, those teams did not quite work out, so I'm using my fire team from before, but I still have runes on him, which definitely helps for the world boss, because apparently I've heard that water element scores higher than the other elements for world boss. So yeah, I'm working on skilling him up with Devilmon. From what I've heard from people, everyone says that the Liches are the best monsters for Necro, so I'm looking at building 2 Rigels, Colleen, because everyone uses Colleen for Necro, so she has to be good. That's what I've heard from everyone too. 2 Rigels, Colleen, and then 2 more monsters. I've been hearing people suggest either Lucian or Teshar for a leader skill for Necro, so I think Lucian's going to be my other one, and then my last monster, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. I'll have to think about that. That's kind of my end game goal for my Necro team, so that's what I'm going to be working towards building. I also have a second Rigel because he was a Hall of Heroes, so somehow I had 3. I think I summoned 1, and then the other 2 I farmed from Hall of Heroes, because I think I farmed 1 and then I accidentally did 1 extra run, so I just decided to farm another one from Hall of Heroes, but that was a long time ago when I didn't really think about building a Necro team, and I wasn't thinking about a super fast Necro team, and that was kind of a mistake of mine, because at that point in time, people were saying that Liches were really good, and I just was like, it's Rigel. Everyone says Fuko's better, you know, in the future I should have Devilmon. But yeah, so I'm looking at building Rigel for Necro. So that is his build. Violent Revenge, you know, standard Necro stuff. Here is Julie. I runed her up just like Sig and Soha, just for the Fire Beast, and actually my guildmate Denbo helped me a lot with fixing my Rift Beast teams, because my teams really sucked, and I was getting like A+, even though I have the runes to get S's, so he really helped me out on that. Thanks Denbo, by the way. You guys should check out his YouTube channel, and he also has a Twitch stream. He streamed a couple times before. He streamed one of our Guild War rushes, which really helped me because I have been sucking in Guild Wars, so I looked at some of his team compositions and learned a bit from him, and he's also super knowledgeable regarding those Rift Beasts, because he said he did a lot of testing. So I'm going to show you those teams and also talk about Denbo when we look at those. So yeah, that's Julie, mainly just for the Fire Beast right now, but I know she's really good for other purposes. Shaolin got de-runed. Whoops. Shaolin got de-runed because I had to give runes to other stuff. So, like I said, PvE was pretty low on my priority list this month, and Shaolin is only a PvE monster for me right now, so she kind of got the axe, but in the future I will rune her back up because she is so good for R5, and I also have invested some skill ups in her. I think I Devilmoned her a little bit too, so I'll have to re-rune her in the future. My Rina gets my Huadam's runes, which we will check later, for Rush Hour. I haven't used Rina for Guild Wars quite yet. I know double fire monster plus Rina is really good against Sierra teams, so I might do that in the future, but right now I'm just using her for AD, and she works really well there. Here is my Tark. He's on my Dragon's B10 team, as well as I think he's on some of my Rift Beast teams. I love Tark, Rift Beast, and yeah, I think that's it. I love Tark, he's so good. So right now I just have 1 Tark built, which I think is sufficient. Luckily I have Velajul, who is really OP for Dragon's B10. One of my viewers actually helped me out and recommended Velajul for Dragon's B10, which increased my success rate to around 100%. It's like 99.99% successful, and Tark is on that team. So I runed Tark up pretty shortly after I runed up my Guild Wars monsters, so he got pretty good runes. And he did improve from last month, I think. He got a lot faster, and more damage too, I believe. Next is Miyang. First, let me take a drink of water because my throat's getting dry. I'm like inhaling through my throat. Alright, so next is Miyang. She is still my R5 healer, but I think her runes did change. I had to give some away. I believe I gave them to Chasun. So Miyang got a bit worse, but she's still working for R5 right now. And the thing about my R5 team is that I don't have a YOLO team right now, where I have 2 damage dealers, which are my Hua and Shaolin. Right now, I only have my safer R5 team, which is with Hua only, and I'm still using Miyang for that. I could use Chisun, but Miyang's a bit better because she's not taking so many turns, and she also has her little cleanse thing. So Miyang's not runed up that well, but she still works for R5. So yeah. That's Miyang. Next is my little blueberry Orion, a new monster I have this month. I tried to rune him up as best I could. I looked around at a lot of Guardian 3 players' Orions, and I tried to see what they had. Did they have Violent Orions? Did they have Swift Orions? And a lot of them had Swift Orions, so that's what I decided to go with. I also looked at violent builds for him, but I couldn't find one that had enough speed, so I settled on Swift. The thing about mine is that he's kind of a bit slow. Ideally, I would like to have him maybe about 20 speed faster, or like 15 speed faster, with the same tankiness he has. People have really good Orions, I was looking around, so he's going to be a monster that I look to improve in the future for sure, and I want to continue making him one of my best monsters because he is so good. Also for skill ups, I've heard a lot of people suggest to do not skill up his second skill if you don't have to, because he might use it more often if you have him on defense, because the AI is really dumb, when you really want him using Harmless Prank a lot. So that's what I did. I did not get any skill ups in second, which was kind of weird. But yeah, I left that one unskilled, and thankfully I had a lot of Gemini skill ups left over from the Hall of Heroes, so it was really easy to skill him up. I haven't used him too much in Guild Wars, but I'm looking at doing that. I'm just afraid about his stats for some reason, but I think he turned out looking pretty good, so yeah. That is Orion, and he is on my Guild Wars defense I showed you guys. Next is Beretta. So, I actually runed up Gemini first with my best Despair set, and then after that, I haven't used Gemini yet aside from having him on defense, so I haven't seen how he's performed. I wanted to see how Gemini would work on Guild Wars offense, but I haven't really thought of a team. Gemini, Orion, Theo might be okay, but there's no heals there, so I've been a bit worried about using it. But sometimes teams work out that way, that are just really offensive with a bit of support in there with Orion and Gemini. But I haven't used that yet, so he's on AD right now. And then Beretta kind of got some leftover runes. I will still use Beretta for TOA Hard this month. TOA Hard is resetting in 3 days, and like I said earlier, I'm probably going to use Beretta, Ganymede, Huadam, and I think my other 2 are going to be Chisun and Arya most likely. So I runed up Gemini first, then I think I did Arya, then Beretta. I think that's what I did. So yeah, Beretta did change, but he's looking pretty similar to how he was before. I think he lost about 20 speed, but he really didn't need it because it's just TOA hard. So yeah, he doesn't need like amazing stuff to work in TOA hard. He needs pretty good runes, but he doesn't need my best at the moment. I'd rather give those to PvP monsters. Next is my Colleen. She's one of my healers in Necro. I'm still using Bella, and she's also one of my healers in R5, and I've kind of actually stopped using my Ramagos Guild Wars team because with my Ramagos team, I've been fighting a ton of super tank teams with things like Ritesh, Kamoon, and monsters with HP or the Wind Monkey, monsters that I cannot clean shot, so I haven't been having too much success with my Ramagos team, which I also used her on, but she's been performing really well in R5 and Necro. So I think she's looking pretty good, but ideally, I would like to have 15% accuracy for R5 and even more for Necro, but I don't have that right now, so I think she's looking pretty good, but she could be better. Next is Spectra. Let me take one more drink of water because my throat's kind of getting dry. Okay, so Spectra is deruned, but I will pop runes onto him if necessary for TOA hard. But right now he is he has some runes on, but pretty much he's deruned. I forgot who that rune went to, his slot 4. Okay, next is Adrian. He's on my current Necro team, which is a very safe Necro team. I was kind of debating, do I build Adrian with 100% crit rate or with 70%, because I think his crit rate buff gives him 30% crit rate. I decided to go with the 100%, and I had him with a bit of a damage build, but he was dying, so then I built him with more of a support build with some tankiness to him, and my necro team's been working out pretty well, so I haven't really looked at switching him back to that damage Adrian yet, so he's more of a supporty Adrian. Next is Veligul. He got some of my absolute best runes. I took him off of speed HP, and I think he's on speed defense HP, which makes him do a bit of damage, which is super helpful in Guild Wars to have him be a support and a damage dealer as well, which is kind of what the Nat 5s do. They fill multiple roles, and they have a lot more in their kit than Nat 3s and Nat 2s do, and even Nat 4s. Like I said before, some Nat 4s are really good, almost like Nat 5s. But yeah, this is my Veligul. I have him speed tuned to move before some monsters. He moves before Chisoon and Theo. I pretty much use him with Theomar's Ritesh Veligul. It's a super nice team because they're all different elements, which spreads out the enemy's damage really nicely so I can tank it out really well. I've been having a lot of success with that team, so that's my Veligul. I'm really proud of him, and he's been doing really well. Good Veligul. It sounds like I'm like talking about my child or something. Okay, next is Verd. I switched him back to more of a tanky support Verd build. Last month I had him on a damage dealer build, but with my current team, my current Dragons B10 team, last month I was noticing that he was dying a little bit, and he was on that damage build, so I made him tankier, and he's been doing really well. If I did make him do a bit more damage, I'm sure it would speed my runs up slightly, but I just went with this build, and he did get ruined pretty late on, so he kind of got a bunch of leftover stuff. Your standard Violent Revenge Verd. Next is my Shihua. She is my leader in my Necro B10 team. I have her on a pretty standard Necro build. The turn order for Necro is important, as I'm sure you guys have been hearing from basically everyone. So she moves after a lot of things do. Who moves first? I think Bella and Colleen move first because they're kind of fast. I could make Bella slow, but I think it's better making her fast. And then after that, I think it's Adrian, Shihua, Hua. And that turn order is pretty optimal. It's like not the best, but it's pretty good. So I like to have her move before Hua so she can get that branding up. And then I think it makes sense to have Adrian move first to buff the crit rate before Shihua moves. So yeah, that's Shihua. Here is Freya. She is unruned right now because I just popped some runes onto her for Rush Hour, and then that's the only time I use her. She used to be on my midweek AD, but I'm testing out that new one that I showed you guys earlier, the Gemini Orion Ritesh Theomar's one. So she does not have runes on right now, but I will show you guys. I'll probably link it in the description, the runes of Freya and basically my Rush Hour AD, how they look when they have the runes on them. So that's Freya. She stayed the same from last month. I believe I've been runing my whole AD the exact same for a while now, like a couple weeks now. Here is my Hua. She stayed the exact same from last month, and I didn't really want to mess with her because she was doing pretty well in R5 with her tankiness. As you guys know, you kind of have to build your R5 monsters a little bit tanky so they can survive. So I kept her the same, and nothing stole runes from her when I was runing stuff up, which was nice. And then when I got to her, like, I kind of ruined up a bunch of stuff, and then I think something took a rune from her, but I was like, nah, let's just lock Hua and keep her how she is. And she's also on my Necro team, and she's been working out just fine, despite the fact that she does not have a violence set, which would help, but it's been working, so I will keep running it, but I know there's a ton of improvements I can make to speed up that Necro team. But Hua is not a monster that's going to be on my endgame Necro team that I was talking about, which most likely will be Lucian, Colleen, double Rigel, and then one extra monster that I haven't figured out yet. Here is my Lisa. She is still my cleanser in R5, and that is the only place I'm using her. I might use her on one of the Rift teams. I'm not quite sure though. So she did give a lot of runes away to Veligul and Ritesh and maybe some other monsters, because last month I runed her up fairly early just to make my R5 team more successful. But this month I'm using my safe R5 team, so she gave runes away, but I will have to keep an eye on her and on my R5 team and my PvE teams in general, because I am giving my best runes to my PvP monsters right now. So that is Lisa. She's just a pretty standard R5 Lisa right now. I think Colleen moves before her, which was kind of an accident. They're very close in speed, but I'm just going to kind of have to deal with it. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but it definitely will help if Lisa can move first, just to cleanse Colleen if she gets stunned. Next is my Bulldozer, who did improve slightly. I think his damage went up by 1 or 2k per hit. His third skill, which is like the most important one that you use, does 2 punches, and I think it went up by 2k each, something like that, which I'm really happy about, because sometimes I run into really tanky monsters in Guild Wars where that damage will help Bulldozer kill them, like Rakans and some other stuff like that. So I did look at improving Copper and Bulldozer, and they both got slightly better, and I think that's just because I've been farming runes, and I picked up some upgrades for both of them. Nothing else. I didn't give any of my runes from other monsters to them. So that's Bulldozer, just a very standard Bulldozer. I will look at probably using single Copper and single Bulldozer teams, and by that I mean, like, I won't use them together, but I think I need some more monsters to build around them to make a team, but they are very strong in Guild Wars, and I kind of lack damage dealers. Right now, pretty much my only 2 Guild Wars damage dealers are Ritesh and Theo. Veligil does a bit of damage, and then I also have Copper and Bulldozer, but I'm used to using them together, and I think eventually I need to learn to split them apart and put them on different teams, just so I have more damage dealers, because I don't think it really makes sense to run a full support team in Guild Wars. You just won't kill anything on the other team, unless your supports have a bit of damage to them too, which mine do not. Next is my Fire Panda. I think he gave 1 or 2 runes away to other things, but he's pretty much built the same as he was before. I tried to get as many revenge sets on him as I can, because that really helps for R5, and right now I'm just using him in R5. I'm not using him for Necro. I think I tried, but I like Bella better because she's a smarter healer than him, and she just works better than him, I found. I have heard that you can use him with Bulldozer and maybe even Copper in Guild Wars because of the defense leader, and he does provide some heals. Mine is not skilled up, as you guys can see, which probably hurts me a little bit, and I probably shouldn't use him in Guild Wars for that reason. So right now he's just an R5 monster in my front line. Next are my 2 fire mummies. I will show you guys those runes down below for both of them. I only use them for Rush Hour right now. They are both fully skilled, so check the runes down below if you want to see what they look like. And they are really the main factor that's been getting me Guardian 1. Them, along with Rina and Freya, that's the defense that I've used every single time I've gotten Guardian 1 and Guardian 2. Also, shoutouts to Too Lazy to Die. He was my original inspiration for building this defense. Not sure if he was the first person. He was the first person that I saw use it, but there may have been someone else, but I think he came up with it on his own, and he didn't really look around at other servers or anyone else. So yeah, awesome dude. He's really helpful. He posts a lot of helpful things on Reddit and responds to people and helps other people out. So yeah. Next is Ramagos. Last month, I was sharing runes between Huadam, Ramagos, and Rina, but this month I runed him up independently, and his build right now is very similar to how he would look if he got Huadam's runes, so that's mainly the reason why I was okay with runing him up. And the thing with him is, I looked at builds for him if I gave him my absolute best runes, and his HP was only like 45,000, 46,000, maybe 47,000 was the most. No, I think it was like 46,000. And even then, some monsters can survive that clean shot, because if you think about it, Ramagos has to be alive to clean shot, which means he's going to have a bit of health, and that bit of health along with the missing health he has, may not be enough to clean shot super tank monsters, so I think that's kind of why I've been failing with him, because all the teams that are Ramagosable are super tanky. I'm not quite sure. Maybe I'm just using him wrong, or maybe I'm misunderstanding something, but I will probably avoid using him against those super tank teams. Maybe the enemies just have better runes than I do. I don't really know. I don't know. So yeah, that's Ramagos. I decided to rune him because we have such tough guild wars and I might be able to pull out a win with him. I might have to grow some balls and use him during the midweek to see if he works and, you know, see how that goes. Risk some losses to see if he's working or not. I think I might have to do that soon, or I will do that soon. But what's today? Tuesday? Yeah, I think I can test him out a bit before the weekend, and then I will have to pick safer strategies later when it really matters. So yeah. Next is Copper. Like I was talking about, or like I was saying when I was talking about Bulldozer, Copper did get improved as well, and I think it's just because I've been farming runes, and I didn't give any existing runes from other monsters to him. Right now he's doing 50,000 damage per Thunderstrike. That's also including my Guild Wars buildings, which have really helped increase that damage. Guild Wars buildings are so strong, so he is doing more, which is really good, and which is helping me for sure because we have such tough Guild Wars. And he's just a standard Copper, just the same as usual. Next is Bernard, who has been the exact same for about 6 months now. I don't know, it's been a long time, but he's stayed the exact same. So I'll show you guys his runes, and that's about it. But yeah, he's the same old Bernard that I've had for a while. Next is Mav. I did rune up Mav because I am using him on the Fire Beast, the Fire Rift Beast actually. Earlier I was talking about Denbo, my guildmate. He helped me out a lot to fix my Rift Beast teams, and he recommended Mav for the Fire Beast to use Wings of Wind to reduce the cooldowns of your AoE monsters so that they have their AoE up when those crystals appear. So that's why I have him runed. I will most likely still use him for some TOA hard boss levels, probably because I've always used him. For the most part right now, I'm autoing every single floor of TOA hard except 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, and then there might be 1 or 2 other floors that I have to manual. And for 60, 70, 80, and 90, I've been using Mav, so I'll probably still use him for that, and I think this build should work because he's decently tanky, and he's pretty much the same Mav that I've always had, so I think he'll work well with this build right now in TOA hard. Next is Shimate, who gained some damage from last month. I wasn't too picky with how much damage he was doing, but I did notice it's quite a bit more compared to last month, which has worried me a little bit, because sometimes I fight Nemesis healers with my Shimate team, and the turn ordering, I'll bring it up here for you guys, so let's see, this is not a team I would fight with my Shimate team, but with my Shimate team, Bernard moves first, followed by Megan. Then Shimate, I use his AoE most of the time to soften things up. He doesn't have to really do any damage at all. He can just do like 2,000 damage to soften things, but he's softening things way more than last month, probably like double or triple the damage, but still it's just kind of a sliver of health. At this point, it's a tiny chunk of health that he's taking away, and I'm worried about him boosting up Nemesis healers to move before Lucian, but I really don't think that should happen, because I think he would have to do way more damage to do that. So actually, I think Shimate's fine. Let's go back to him. So like I was saying, he's doing a bit more damage from last month, but yeah, so I runed him up very late in the rune order. Pretty much I just gave him whatever was left over. Next is Lagmaron. He came up pretty early in the rune order, but I have not been having success with him in Guild Wars because literally everyone at this ranking has will runes, so I cannot lightning strike anything, which is important with Lagmaron, so his current build is not working. Maybe if I built him as kind of a bruiser Lagmaron, it would work out. He actually has really high base HP, so I'm not quite sure. I have seen a few Guardian 3 players use him. I think Scat still uses Lagmaron, but right now he's not working with his current build, and I'm not using him in PvE at all, so he's in an awkward position. He has been for a couple months now, where I haven't really found great use of him. And even now, a lot of times against Theo, Orion, Chasun, Guild War defense teams, I would bring Lagmaron, and if they had will runes, I would squall the Orion, which means it would just be Theomars and Chasun left, and then I would just pray that Theomars wouldn't kill my Lagmaron. But at this point in time, I fought an Orion yesterday who had a lot of HP. I don't think my Lagmaron can kill Orions without defense break, which is, I think, just how it's going to be since I'm fighting tougher players who have tanky Orions. That's what I saw when I looked at a bunch of Guardian 3 players' Orions. They have pretty tanky ones who are also really fast, and they have good accuracy too. So he's in an awkward position, like I said, not quite sure what to do with him, but I still ruined him up kind of early on because he has been kind of a crutch that I've been using for Guild Wars, but he's kind of not been working out too well recently. Next is Chasun. She is one of my stars, one of my little diamonds from this free rune removal. I improved her a ton. I don't think she's ever had 25,000 HP. It's always been like plus 15,000 or something, so I'm really excited at how she turned out. I'm kind of a little bit disappointed that she has a despair offset, but it's okay. So she came up very early in the rune order, specifically because I'm using Chasun, Huadam, Theomars with Theomars lead for Guild Wars. I'll show you guys again. So I made her really good for this purpose, and I'm also most likely going to use her quite a bit in Guild Wars 2. For the longest time, I've relied on Ritesh to be my only healer, and I really haven't used Chasun at all. What I had been doing was using Theomars, Ritesh, and then like Velajul, so kind of a bruiser team with some heals. And then for my other team, I was using Galleon, Lagmaron, Bernard, or Copper Bulldozer, a team that really doesn't need a healer. But as I'm progressing in Guild Wars and fighting tougher people, I do need to bring in some more healers. I can use Copper with Chasun. There are a couple variations I can do. So I ruined her up for defense and for offense. So I really like the way she looks right now. Let's go ahead and go back to her and check her out one more time. So yeah, that's Chasun. Next is Briand. He donated a lot of runes to other things, and like I said, this month I'm going to be testing out Huadam and Ganymede in TOA hard, so I'm going to try to not use Briand, but if I need to use him, I'm sure I can just pop some runes on him, and he should end up looking okay. Like this one would work. Let's just go ahead and put that on him right now. So yeah, I did use him, I think, for the Hall of Heroes that we had recently. It was the Light Undyne Hall of Heroes, so I'm pretty sure I'll still use him occasionally, but maybe not that much. We'll have to see how TOA hard goes, though. Here is my Lucian that moves second. He stayed the exact same. I would like to improve him. No, wait, one change happened. It was a gem. So the gem that I changed was the crit damage right there. It used to have 8% accuracy, but now it has 7% crit damage, and I'm hoping that the slight increase in damage will help me against those tank teams that I sometimes struggle against. So teams with Water Panda Leader or Aerial Leader, sometimes my Lucians won't do enough damage to kill, because combined my Lucians do 46,000 damage, something like that. I believe it's like 46 or 47,000 damage. So I've been struggling against some of those where the enemies survive, so I did improve that. And then his will runes, I'm not quite sure how good they are. I think that's really the main place I can improve. Maybe this one especially. It can have some crit rate and crit damage on it. This will rune looks pretty good though, but that one can definitely be improved, and I think my other runes too. I was thinking about my Lucians though. To make them Guardian 3 Lucians, they're going to have to be much, much better than they are right now. I think just the curve of how good you have to get, like, the difference between Conqueror 3 and Guardian 1 isn't really that big, but from Guardian 1 to Guardian 3, I think it's going to be a very big hill to climb, so I will continuously look to improve him, but this month I didn't have any improvements, so I kept him the same. Next is my Ritesh. He did come up really early on in the rune order because, like I said, I am really prioritizing making my Guild Wars monsters good, and it just helps so much because he's a Nat 5, high base stats, and he has so much in his kit. He's a support, a healer, and a tank, and even more, all at the same time. So I gave him really good runes. I think he turned out okay. Of course, he can be a lot better. I was looking at Guardian 3 players' Reteshes, and their Reteshes just blow mine out of the water completely. They will have the exact same stats as mine, but they will have 150 crit damage, and they will have like 20 more speed. And I'm like, oh gosh, I think I have a problem here. But yeah, it's just kind of my runes and the limitations I have right now. He got runed up very early on though. It was pretty much Bernard, Lushens, Theomars, then I think it was like Orion, Retesh, Veligul, something like that. So I tried to make him as good as I could, and I think he turned out a lot better than he has been. But of course, I still need to farm those runes and improve him. Next is Amesity. I'm not quite sure what happened to him, but he did come pretty late on in the rune order. Since I put Orion in there, I think Amesity had to give some runes over to Megan or Orion, maybe even Shasun if I recall. So I think he got a little bit worse. I don't know. I don't need him to be performing extremely well to work. So for him, I just tried to give him as good of speed as I could with some good accuracy to land his debuffs. I think this one's his only debuff, the slow. And then I tried to make him as tanky as possible. I've noticed that he dies a lot when I use Amesity Copper Bulldozer, so I would like to fix that problem, but I don't quite know if it's fixable. So, yeah. I talked about that in my recent Guild War commentary against Elegy, and I think one person mentioned that that just kind of happens because he's not as tanky as Copper and Bulldozer, and since Copper and Amesity are the same element, oftentimes Amesity will just die because it's 50-50 who the enemies focus, so that kind of sucks, but he still worked out where against teams that Copper and Bulldozer work against, it works. But there are some times where it kind of doesn't work, and Amesity dies, and then I can't use him anymore. But there are other defense buffers that work with Copper and Bulldozer. I've used Megan. I think other people use Olivia too. And there might be some others. I know Delphoy's used, but I don't think she has a defense buff. She does have a defense leader skill, and I talked about that earlier. I will have to look at making some more options that I can use with single Copper or single Bulldozer, because a lot of times I have issues with picking one team, and that team's fine for Guild Wars, but my second team lacks damage. So that's kind of worrisome, but if I can find some options that I can use with Copper and Bulldozer, that'll help me a little bit. Next is my Lucian that moves first. I've talked about this before, but for him, I make him do very little damage. Right now, he's still only doing 7,000 damage per card, and that's so he doesn't trigger that much nemesis, so enemy nemesis monsters cannot cut in between my Lucians. But the thing is, I was talking about this when I talked about my first Lucian, the one that's my leader, or my rep monster, the Lucian that moves second. I was talking about this earlier. I think the climb, or the difference between Guardian 1 and Guardian 3 is really big, and I think my Lucians are going to have to change pretty dramatically to be Guardian 3 Lucians from where they are right now. These two will just not cut it. I think they're going to have to be a lot faster, and then the second one's going to have to do a lot more damage, and I think the first one can do more damage as well. I have been looking at some Guardian 3 players' Lucians and kind of seeing what they're using, and I think mine are kind of far off from that, so I will continue farming my runes, but he stayed the exact same from last month, so yeah. You guys can always check out my Rush Hour commentaries. I will link them down below if you want to, because I talk a lot about how they work and how I pick teams to fight with them. And also I've gotten Guardian 3 3 or 4 times, not Guardian 3, Guardian 1 3 or 4 times and Guardian 2 once with them. So they've been pretty consistent recently. I think I got Guardian 1 every single week for the last 3 weeks. So they're pretty consistent in the current meta right now. So yeah, if you guys want to check them out and see how they work, check those videos out. It's time for a drink break because my throat, oh gosh. Alright, let's continue on. Ganymede. I runed up because I thought he might be useful in Guild Wars. I haven't had the balls to use him yet because there are so many runes, or will runes, in Guild Wars. Literally everyone has will runes, and he needs to have that will removed to reduce the to use this skill on them to reduce their attack bars, and even I don't think his cooldown thing works against Will. I'm almost 99% sure it doesn't. So I've thought about using Gemini, Ganymede, Theo, but I don't think the speed tuning is optimal to use that. I would probably have to go against a pretty slow team to do that sort of situation. Yeah, so I want to use him, but I haven't really found a good way to. I have used him in World Arena a little bit. I haven't taken that too seriously though, and he has worked out pretty well. So at least I have him built. Baby steps, guys. One day I will probably have him fully incorporated into one team or another, but right now he's just this. One of my guildmates above us has given me some great suggestions to use Ganymede with certain teams. He said Ganymede works really well with Devolution, Mega and Ganymede Devolution, so you can get 3 amputations, and I think he also uses Ganymede with Julie Lucian. But I haven't looked at doing that in Arena yet. My 2 AOs have been working really well, and oftentimes with Devolution, I don't really find any tank teams that don't have a Nemesis healer. I'm sure they're out there, but my brain has my brain hasn't adapted to that yet to look out for those teams and use Ganymede. So right now, I'm kind of comfortable with not using Ganymede, but I do want to kind of use him because I know he's a Nat 5 and I know he's so good. So that's the current state of him. I think he's looking alright with the current build. Of course, Will would be better, or Will would be optimal for an offset, and I need to farm Necro because I don't have that many Will runes. Next is Darian. He is still one of my R5 frontliners on my safer R5 team, with my YOLO R5 team with Shaolin. What I do for my YOLO team, I guess we could call it, is remove Darian and put Shaolin in. So I'm losing Darian's passive, which means that my monsters are going to have better stats because that passive really helps you survive in R5. But I de-rune Shaolin to give her runes to other things, so I'm just strictly using my safe R5 team right now with Darian. So yeah, hopefully we have the Diaz Hall of Heroes this month because that'd be really nice to have as an R5 monster, just because of the leader skill. And then if Diaz is the Hall of Heroes, I will probably rune up Diaz and not use Darian anymore for R5, I don't think. I know they both have their pros and cons. Diaz, I think, is better, but people do use Darian for other reasons because their skills are a bit different. Darian has the defense break on his first skill, and then I think, wait, did I say Briand? I don't know. Diaz has unrecoverable debuff, so they're slightly different. So yeah. Next is Bella. She's on my Necro team. She got runed up very late in the order. So I did give her a Will set for Necro. Someone a very long time ago commented on one of my videos saying that, wait, did I say Will? Shield? I don't know. I'm messing up all my words right now. This video has gone on too long. So someone a very long time ago said shield sets were good in Necro, and I have been doing a lot of research recently about Necro, and a lot of people were suggesting shield sets. And since Bella's first skill is only a single target hit, you don't really need revenge on her because she's just going to revenge and hit once. So it's better if you can put that shield set on her to make the earlier waves extremely safe. So that's what I did with her. She's not looking too hot, but that's okay because I'm just using her in Necro right now, and I probably still will use her on those boss floors of TOA hard that I still have to manual, which are 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. I don't know how many. I think she's on my Lirith team, but she's not on my Athtaros team for 100, but I'll probably still use her. I think she'll work for TOA hard on her, how she looks right now, even though it's not really the best. Next is Arya. I believe I runed her up right after I runed Gemini, so I kept her the same. Despair, Revenge. Despair is really good because of her AoE, and then Revenge is also really good because of her first skill, where if she revenges and sleeps something, she'll get 50% attack bar, and that whole thing will go down. So I kept her the same, and yeah, I think her stats ended up looking no, she looks kind of worse, I think. I'm not quite sure, but I did give Gemini my best runes because I'm using him for PvP for my, AD, and I think that's better to have him perform very strong, but for TOA hard you don't need well, for me, I don't need my absolute strongest runes on my TOA hard monsters, so I think she'll work just fine. Next is Gemini over here. I did rune him up, or her, I don't quite know what it is. Gemini's got some lips going on and blushing, I don't know. Maybe it's androgynous, or both genders, neither gender. Probably neither gender, I don't know. Okay, so with Gemini, I gave it Despair Energy. I'm getting so flustered over the gender of this thing. The light ball rats. Despair because you want that chance of stunning, and I did have quite a few skill ups in storage to fully skill Gemini. I believe it was just all of the Geminis I farmed because that was still the old style of Hall of Heroes, so I gave skill ups to Orion and I had enough left for Gemini. I have been wanting to use Gemini in Guild Wars, but I've been a bit hesitant. I talked about this earlier. I kind of wanted to use Gemini Orion Theo, or maybe even Gemini Ganymede Theo. Sometimes those teams work with a bit of damage and support and no heals, but I've been a bit scared to do that. So for Gemini, I've only used it, him, her on AD at the moment, and my AD has really not been doing that hot, as you guys can see. Let me pull it up. I think they only have like an 8.7% win rate, which is absolutely terrible. But yeah, so that is that. Okay, next monster. Let's see here. Wadam! I recently 6-starred him, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I gave him some of my best runes. Him and Rena still share runes, so when Rush Hour comes around, I put these runes onto Rena. And I made him, he's a pretty standard Hwadam actually. I looked around at some Guardian 3 players' Hwadams. Like I was talking about earlier, I've been looking around a lot at Hwadam builds, Orion builds, and Theomar's builds too. And I think he turned out pretty similar to how other Guardian 3 players had their Hwadams. I don't recall seeing too much despair on Guardian 3 players' Hwadams. I know a lot of people suggest that because of his AoE thing over here. And I think Despair can proc either time he does his sand because it says that attacks all enemies 2 times. I'm not quite sure about that, but I just decided to go with this to make him as tanky as possible. And he's pretty awesome with that. His first skill provides a lot of support and debuffs to make matches safe. So I really like this. I haven't used him too much. I am just so comfortable with using my Veligul. Here, I'll show you guys. I'm so comfortable with using that top team there with immunity. I haven't quite used Theomar's, Chasoon, and Hwadam. I used them a couple times and it worked out pretty well, so I think I'll have to kind of, you know, wade into those waters and let go of my safety blanket or security, my baby blanket with that immunity. Because I know this team is really good, as long as I bring it against the right things. If you bring it against Orion, it can be pretty risky because they have the attack bar boost, and he'll just keep moving and CCing, and I don't have any means to get rid of that CC. So that might be kind of risky against Orions, but against other things I think it should be fine. So let's continue on. Hwadam I think turned out really well. Like I said, I did give him some of my, I think I gave him my absolute best runes. Next is Veramos. I actually didn't really rune him up this month. He has runes on, but he was one of the last monsters that I looked at runing, so he ended up turning out kind of bad. I think that's okay though. I'm not going to use him in Guild Wars or on my AD at the moment because he only has 20,000 HP, which is not enough to survive a single Lucian most of the time, which is really bad. So not on my AD. Thankfully I have another one that I can use in the meantime, and it has gotten me Guardian 1. Well, I used it for the first 30 minutes and it did okay then. And I'm also not going to use Veramos for Guild Wars because I've just found that he hasn't really been performing that well. I think he can if you rune him up really well, and you'll probably have to have a specific team with him. But I just focused on other things that I thought would be more impactful than him. And like I said, I have a heavier PvP focus than I did before, and Veramos kind of has shifted to mostly a PvE monster for me. I did use him on my AD though, and in Guild Wars a bit, but yeah, right now, not really using him. I might use him for TOA hard, but I already kind of have a team planned out. If that team fails, I'll try out Vero, so he's kind of looking bad, but I tried my best with him, so that is Vero. Next is Delphoy. She doesn't have runes on, but I just have her out here because I might build her eventually, and I had a couple of Undines in storage to skill her up, and we also had an Undine Hall of Heroes a couple days ago, the Light Undine, so she's fully skilled, and that can definitely be an option for me, especially because she's fully skilled. Next, let's go ahead and check out monster storage over here. Earlier I was saying I might build Konamiya for Guild Wars, maybe Chilling. I kind of thought about that, but I'm not so sure. The Homunculus I retired because I don't have any plans for him right now, but in the future I might, especially the Fire Homunculus for a Cleave team, because if I want to get Guardian 3 or even Guardian 2, I think I'm going to need another very strong AO to use, and my Lushens will probably have to be a lot better than they are right now. So let's continue on. I tested out Rayok in Necro, but he didn't quite work out too well. Tessarion I will probably build for Guild Wars in the future, and maybe Chloe too. I've heard Chloe is good against Orion teams as long as you move first. And then nothing else here I think is really worth mentioning. The second Rigel I need to definitely work on, and Amir I might use for my Cleave team eventually. I looked at building Shren and Kali, the High Elementals, but they just weren't doing enough damage at the builds that I looked at for it to be worth building them. Also, my Dark Assassin I've still been neglecting. I know a lot of people would probably build her right away if they got her, but I just haven't done that. And then everything else I think is just kind of skill ups and stuff, so I will scroll down to show you everything I have. My Wi-Fi is just being lovely today. I still haven't fixed that. I said I would do it last week, but I think I need to get like a whole new piece of hardware to make like a secondary router closer to my room to make it work. But yeah, just bear with me guys. One day I'll get that fixed. Also, I've been thinking about building Raccoony, the Fire Harg, and since I pulled Basalt, I got rid of all of my Mammoths and fully skilled up Basalt, which was really cool. And I think that's pretty much everything to note. I have been using my Devilmons on Rigel, the one I have over here, so I don't have any Devilmons in storage. Next, what do we do next? Let me check the magic shop, and then we'll do unsummoned monsters, I think, and then dungeon teams and stuff like that. Okay, gotta buy a couple of those. Let's check out unsummoned monsters so you guys can see if I have any from Hall of Heroes or anything like that that I'm saving up. I like to keep one of every nat 4. I've told you guys that before. So, those are all my unsummoned monsters. Let's go ahead and jump into dungeon teams. This is my Giants team. It's been the same for a while now. Maybe if I put my phone over there, we'll get a bit better signal. Okay, yeah, we're going. So, I almost started choking right there. Okay, so my Giants team is the same, and the run time's about a minute. So nothing really new to report here, but I'll just show you guys a run in case anyone's looking at this in the future or right now and wondering what is your Giants team. Same thing. Also, I think Theo, I don't know if I've talked about this before, but I think Theo makes this team almost 100%. I don't recall if they've ever failed with the current runes I have on them. I think they have failed before when I had worse runes, but I have tried out Lagmaron on this team, and it has failed, and the reason I think Theo makes it closer to 100% is because of his passive. He'll kind of survive if things get really bad. Sometimes they do, but yeah. So as we can see there, the passive is popping off in here. But if he didn't have that passive, he'd be dead, and maybe I'd wipe. A lot of times, though, this team, a lot of monsters die, which is kind of surprising. So the runs are mostly like that. 1 minute-ish, and nearly a 100% success rate, if not 100%. So next is my Dragons B10 team. Just like my Giants B10 team, they have a very high success rate. For Dragons, I think it's probably 99.9% successful, maybe even, yeah, probably 99.9% successful. And then Giants, I think, is even more successful. I don't think I've seen a Giants fail, but with Dragons, my team finally failed once 2 days ago, I think it was. I've done a lot of runs and no fails. So this team is very safe. And Verd, I did switch back to a support Verd, so he's doing less damage, and my runs would speed up if he was doing more, but Veligul is doing some decent damage now because I gave him a defense rune. And I think his crit rate's maybe like 30%, so he crits sometimes, but he's doing more damage, so that did speed up the runs. Galleon is still a support Galleon, so there's room for speeding it up and improvement, but right now this is how it is. I'm pretty satisfied. I don't recall what the run times were. I think they're about a minute 30, something like that, maybe closer to a minute. I'm not quite sure, we'll find out here, but I'm satisfied with them. And then I was talking about this earlier in the video. Like I said, I do have a very heavy PvP focus now because of the Guild Wars thing, but in the future, especially if I start spending more money on the game, right now I'm only spending $10 a month, but if I start spending more, like even buying those $100 packs every month, I'm probably going to have to look at having more of a PvE focus, so I can get rid of those crystals every month and use them to farm. So 127, yeah, I think this is 130 on average, which is pretty good, I think. I would like it to be closer to a minute, but that's okay. Fast enough for me, for now. Next is my Necro team. I finally have one this month. It's the Necro team that I used a long time ago, and it hasn't failed that much, actually. I have seen it fail once yesterday, but I think they're doing pretty well, which is very good because I need will runes. I've been doing a lot of Guild Wars, and everyone has will runes, and I've noticed that they are extremely strong, so I'm looking at getting some will sets. I use will on both my Lushens right now. In the future, I think I might take that first one off will. It definitely helps, though, but I don't know how many high-ranking players have their first Lucian on will. Definitely having will for Guild Wars is one of my goals on Theomars and on a lot of my other monsters. So I'm farming Necro right now, and I have noticed that when I farm R5, I've gotten a lot of Necro grinds and gems, and I just don't have as many Necro runes as the other ones. So I'm looking to farm this probably this month. I still have 2,000 crystals in my inventory. I might have to kind of burn those off in Giants or Dragons. Dragons might be the better bet because Dragons runes, you use them in Necro because Violent is so strong in Necro along with Revenge. Pretty sure you get Revenge in Dragons, don't you? Yeah, I think you do. So yeah, I'm worried. I don't know why I have 2,000 crystals, but I do. I actually got, I think, 500 from the events. We have the 3-year birthday anniversary thing event for Summoner's War. Happy 3rd birthday, Summoner's War. So I did get those, which kind of helped, but even if I didn't have those, I still had 1,500 crystals, which is more than I would like when TOA hard is resetting in 3 days. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people would probably be satisfied with that. You know, hey, I have enough crystals to keep playing the game, but I'm worried that I haven't been farming that much, and my Necro team is very slow compared to my other two teams, so I won't be able to burn my crystals as fast or get rid of them really that much at all. I might have some crystal issues with my crystals piling up because my Necro team is so slow. I think the average runtime is probably 2 minutes and 30 seconds on this team. So yeah, the dots are really nice on this team, and the dots are really what speeds up this run. So 2:17, it's anywhere between 2 minutes and 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So yeah, that's 2:17 is probably pretty average for this team. Next, let me show you guys, let's see, I guess I will show you my R5 team. Okay, we found some people to raid with. I think they are running with 2 damage dealers. The monkey is a backland monkey, so he might be more of a damage dealer monkey. And then we do have 2 damage dealers there, so with teams that only have 1 damage dealer, because generally, I think you guys probably know this, but when you build your first R5 team, generally you're supposed to run 1 damage dealer just because you can run more supports like the Fire Panda and Darien to make your team really safe, because that's the first goal, you know, be able to farm it consistently without many fails, and having a safe team helps you not die, and then eventually you push it further with adding more damage in. So in public raids, I like to run with this team, the safe one. And as I said, I de-runed Shaolin, so this is the only team I can really run with. I can put Chisun in for Miyang, but Miyang's a stronger R5 healer than Chisun. But my Miyang has worse runes, so as long as this keeps working, I'll use it, and it has been working. I don't think I'll need to do public R5 anymore, though, because I have so many guild members that I can raid with. I haven't really been raiding that much. I want to focus my crystals on Necro because I don't have that many will runes, and will runes are really going to help me in Guild Wars, and probably in other places too, like Arena, for specific things, especially my second Lucian, the one that moves second. So yes, this is the whole R5 situation. I still wanted to have a working R5 team in case I wanted to farm it a little bit. Sometimes my guild members invite me and I just join for a little bit to farm, but I think I need to focus on farming runes because I'm not too confident with where my runes are, and I was talking about earlier how I know that it's going to take a lot better runes to get Guardian 3 and just have that rune quality. So I've been working on that. Thankfully, the reappraisal stones came out, so that'll probably help a little bit, but of course, you know, higher ranking players are also getting those reappraisal stones and getting even more good runes. But I think me having the runes that I have, I might have a better chance. Not a better chance. I have the same chance of getting better runes, but they're going to be put more to use on my monsters, because at some point when you have such good runes on your monster, or a monster, it's going to be difficult to find an upgrade for that, just because it's so rare to get a good rune to replace that. So yeah, that's the whole situation. My R5 success rate, sometimes some of my monsters wipe. I did move some to the front line, which I think helped, but actually I think the reason why some of my monsters were wiping was because I was missing a rune on Darien yesterday, and Darien does donate a few runes. I think maybe he only donates one to one of my fire mummies for rush hour, and that's that. I'll show you guys the damage and the assist. My damage is going to be pretty low because Hua is my only damage dealer, and my assist is going to be pretty high because I have more supports with more debuffs. So that is that. We already had the third jump happen, and my team's getting kind of low, but I think they'll be fine. So, like I said, this team's my safest team, so I don't think they should die that often. And in the future, I will have to look at runing up Shaolin again because she is so amazing for R5, and I did give her a lot of skill ups. I gave her some Devilmons too. So next month, I'll probably have her re-runed, but this month I didn't even really bother because I runed up so much other stuff before her. But at least I still have Hua. So that was the R5 run, just an example to show you guys. And then the run times really vary. It determines on, yes, the run times are determined by who you run with. So this time's longer than usual. Yesterday I was raiding with some guildies and our times were about 2:30. So that's a longer time, and that's a pretty long time for an R5 run. Let's check out some of my Rift Beast teams. Again, my guildmate Denbo helped me out a lot with these. I'm not going to show you runs because they take a while. But here's my fire team. I have 3 AoE damage dealers for those crystals along with Mav to help reduce their cooldowns, and I can show you the team that I used to get my best score right there. Next, the water team, I believe, has been the same because I did farm the water homunculus because I was getting really good scores with it. Shaolin actually is not ruined though right now, so I think I had to substitute something in for her. I guess I put Sig in there, but Tark's really nice with that just to reduce the cooldowns and get more damage, and he's also a pretty good damage dealer too. So Tark, I love Tark. Like, I really developed my love for him because he works so well in Dragon's B10 and also on some of these Rift Beasts. So that's the water one. The water one I was fine with. Denbo helped me a lot with the fire one. And then the wind one too, so I finally got an S on the wind one, which is nice because, like I said earlier, or you guys probably know, you have to farm those reappraisal stones every week. So this is the wind one, and the beauty with this team is Verd. So the fire panda puts the hot up on your team, and then Verd gives you more turns, and each turn you get that hot ticks on you and heals you up. So this team is so nice and so strong. So I'm getting S's now. I haven't farmed it too much, so I don't know if I'm getting consistent S's, but I think I might be. If I'm not, I'm getting some A's in there, but my team improved a ton. So that is the Wind Beast. Here is the Light Beast. I'm not farming this anymore because I don't need to. For the reappraisal stones, you only need the first 3, fire, water, wind. But this was my light team, and it should still be because I have all these monsters runed up. I maybe might try Chasoon in there or something. I don't know. The light and dark, I haven't really looked at improving too much. I think on both of those I was struggling a bit. So yeah, and then again, Shaolin's not runed. So for dark, I guess I haven't looked at fixing it yet. And I haven't been looking at farming those yet to any of these for the runes, because this is where you get crafting materials for those fancy runes, and I'm not quite there at this point in the game yet. So yeah, eventually I will farm those though, because I know at some point in progression people do that, but not quite right now. And let's see, was that it? Glory Shop and Guild Shop buildings, and that'll be it. So let's scroll through the Glory Shop here. I hope I didn't forget anything. I don't think I did. I think all my Glory Shop buildings should be maxed within the next couple months, maybe 2 months, 3 months, something like that. Actually, I can buy the Fire Sanctuary upgrade, so let's go ahead and do that and scroll on back to it. So I just need 1 more level in that, and then all I need to do is the light and dark buildings and 1 mana building. 3 buildings left, and it will be done. I've been playing the game for 1 year and 6 months, I think, right now, and then we can crack into those scrolls. Let's check the guild shop, shall we? I'm still buying summoning stones because I'm probably going to go for a 3rd Lushen and a Commune, because I've been seeing a lot of Communes in Guild Wars, especially if I want to continue doing well in Guild Wars, push to be in a top 10 guild and a legend ranking guild. If I ever want to do that in the future, I think it is very smart to have Commune in case I don't pull good Guild Wars Nat 5s, because Nat 5s are extremely strong in Guild Wars, as you know. Commune has popped up as one of those Nat 4s that's really strong too. A lot of people run Orion in Guild Wars, who's only a Nat 4 too. So I think it makes sense to set myself up for that option of obtaining Commune if, you know, because he's so good and I might need him if I want to continue taking Guild Wars seriously. So right now I think, I'm not sure how many stones I have. I'm kind of saving. I'm not sure if I should go for Lushen or Commune next. We had a Lushen rotation that was pretty good that just expired yesterday, and I decided to hold on to my stones. So I might be going for Commune depending on what Nat 5s he's with. So yeah, pretty sure I'm just going to be going for Nat 4s with those stones again. And I think that was the end of the video. If I left anything out, I'll include it on the end. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will catch you guys later.